What's up everyone, Alex here. So unfortunately today I'm have to start with some very bad news. Investors do not know when to invest in at the moment. Unfortunately, over the past year we've had a terrible pandemic that has decimated our public health, cost millions of lives and impacted our economy significantly. All of this led to our cities at certain points in time looking like something out of a post-apocalyptic film. At the same time, investors, when the pandemic hit, rushed and sold equities, causing stock markets to drop more than 40%. Things only rebounded afterwards as investors piled money into some of the technology firms, which were the stay-at-home plays, causing valuations of companies such as Zoom and Peloton to rise to stratospheric levels. So the question investors have now is, how much more money can you keep piling into these tech stocks and boosting valuations to record high levels, or do we try and find some potentially undervalued stocks that could recover as economies reopen? And that's exactly what I'm going to share with you today. 5 value stocks that have very solid businesses that should recover as the economies reopen. So if that sounds interesting, please hit the like and subscribe button and let's get straight into it. The first stock I'd like to talk about, and I've talked about it in some of my previous videos, is Disney. Now, Disney is a fantastic undervalued stock in my point of view for 3 main reasons. Firstly, the majority of the business is driven by the parks and hotel. Now, we've already seen significant pent-up demand and people going back to the Disney parks. And we also see, as cinemas reopen, attendance levels being very high, Black Widow being a very good example of Disney doing very well. At the same time, Disney has completely transformed this business over the past 2 years with a very big focus on its digital subscription services. So when you look at Disney Plus, Hulu and ESPN, Disney has significantly blown past through subscriber expectations. This is only set to continue as Disney has a very good content plan, and therefore we have a very good growth element with the digital subscription, but also a company that will benefit from the economy reopening by people going back to the movies and going back to the parks, which we've already seen that they want to do. And therefore Disney is a great value stock to invest in. Now, second on the list, it's Diageo. So we've already seen, as economies gradually reopen and people travel, that Diageo is seeing a significant recovery in every single one of its geographies. At the same time, Diageo has managed to increase its market share in its key segment, while at the same time increasing average prices. This is a great example of a company that is making sure that during the pandemic, it's strengthening its business. So as economies reopen, people will go out more, will go to bars, will go to restaurants, will consume these drinks, having a cocktail with friends, while at the same time, as travel goes back to normal, Diageo will also benefit from travelers buying and drinking at those airports. At the same time, it pays a 2% dividend that will give you very good passive income, and therefore Diageo is one of my favorite reopening plays. So the next company I'm going to talk about, and it's a little bit controversial, is BP. The oil business as a whole, I find to be relatively simple. It's a question of supply and demand. So how much people want to consume oil, and how much does OPEC or oil exporting companies, how much do they pump out oil? So supply and demand, which dictates the price of oil. Now, the price of oil is currently at $72 per barrel. Oil companies over the past years that have struggled have improved their efficiencies and are profitable at a much lower cost per barrel. At $70 per barrel, BP is very profitable. It enables them to sustain the dividend, but also increase the share buyback. These are things that will definitely boost the stock price, which is already at relatively record lows. As a whole, I much prefer solar stocks, but it shows us that at least in the next few years, BP has a good path to recover as demand for oil increases with economies reopening, people traveling more. BP has a good platform for the benefit. Now, as we progress into value stocks, we're going to get into a little bit more of controversial themes, and we're going to talk about Boeing. Now, Boeing is a company that makes aeroplanes. Now, there's basically only 2 companies around the world that makes aeroplanes, Boeing and Airbus. Now, even through the pandemic, Boeing has had quite significant revenues. So you see the revenues have decreased, but they still have 15 billion. Yes, they are loss-making at the moment, but they have a significant backlog of aircrafts valued at over 280 billion. The reality is we will need airplanes, we will need aircrafts to be created for us to be able to travel. As global travel increases, and it's round about at 50% of the peak, but as economies reopen, as people are vaccinated, the airline industry will recover, and that means that companies such as Boeing will do very well because there's no one else to buy your airplanes from. Companies will need to renew their fleets to increase capacity. Boeing is a company that I think from current valuation will increase. Now, if all of this wasn't controversial enough, another value stock that we're going to talk about is cruise lines. Now, cruise lines is one of those things that has been in the media, especially when the pandemic hit, as very high risk environment. This is true, but we already know that there's significant pent-up demand, and I personally have bought the biggest and most profitable cruise line, which is Carnival. Now, Carnival, yes, has needed to raise money in order to stay afloat. But as economies reopen, as there's that pent-up demand, I think cruise lines is one of those industries that will benefit, and the stock prices will recover, and it will be a good long-term investment. So there you have it, my 5 value stocks that I think will do well as the economy reopens. Now there's some controversial ones, but I hope you've enjoyed the video. As always, I would really appreciate if you leave a comment in the comment section, and looking forward to seeing you in my next one.